Have you ever come across an online post by someone else that was about you? What was it? My cousin posted about how his family makes fun of him for playing video games and collecting Legos since he's in his mid-20s. He has a job and buys his own stuff. He went on to say that two family members, without fail, poorly sneak through his room every Thanksgiving so they can buy him a Lego set he doesn't already have for Christmas. Apparently, my husband and I are not as smooth as we thought. I read a post on Reddit Relationships where this person had gone on a first date with a guy and she thought he was a very nice and pleasant guy, but was boring and there was no chemistry, and she wanted advice on how to reject him for the second date. The details she described about the first date were exactly similar to a first date I'd had a week before the post. 2 days after the post went up and people responded with advice, I got a text from the girl I went on a date with saying she thought I was a nice person and she had a good time, but she doesn't think we'll be a good match and wished me all the best. So yeah, I came to know about my rejection before she could actually reject me. In all fairness, this was my first date ever and I probably was extremely boring and nervous, and I don't blame her at all for rejecting me. Someone made up a story about me stealing their husband and posted it on this kind of site. They stole a picture from my Facebook profile and posted it. To this day, I have no idea who did that. That person must have known me but didn't actually know where I live since it was posted with a town that is 6 hours away from where I actually live. I immediately told my husband about it and thankfully he didn't believe it, but somehow someone found it at work and everyone was talking about it. Even the VP called me to ask me about it. It was embarrassing. The post still lives and there's nothing I can do for them to take it down, but at least I got one to remove my picture. This gif of a kid playing soccer who takes 2 goal shots to the face, back to back. That's me. I have no idea who filmed it or posted it to the internet. I made a post asking for advice about one of our roommates not having a job and worried about how to pay for rent. We ended up talking to him and he got a job. Everything was cool. At the end of the conversation, he says, "And stop posting about me on Reddit," in a playful way. I found a post about my friend's band, and then I wondered who posted it. And I found very quickly it was my ex-girlfriend who was now dating the guitar player of said band. And so I had to click through her history and found a post about how I'd accidentally kneed her in her privates while we were doing the deed, and it made a funny noise. It felt pretty weird reading that. If you'll excuse the narrator, he has to go and check the entire internet to see if any of his many romantic fumbles have been aired for all to see. Divorced my ex because of addiction and mistreatment, culminating in a serious felony attack. A few years later, he started dating. I checked her out online and stumbled into a post she made on legal advice websites asking questions about my will. She was asking about the custody arrangements I've made for my kids in the event that their father isn't sober or healthy at the time of my death. I lost my mind when I read that. I'll admit that my phone call with my ex about this did not reflect me at my best. I once met a guy at a bar. We exchanged numbers and were going on a date before I googled him and found out that he and his mum were being charged with attacking a woman who was feeding stray cats. I told my coworker this story and showed her the insane surveillance video. She shared the story on a thread where Aziz Ansari was asking if people ever do research before their dates, and he included my story in his book Modern Romance. So that was pretty cool. In case you're wondering, no, I didn't go on the date. Also, this guy and his mum tried to convince the woman that they beat unconscious that she fell. She didn't even know that she was beaten until she saw the surveillance video. Oh man, I would have just gone on the date and wait until he asked, "What hobbies do you have?" to say, "I like feeding stray cats," just to see his reaction. Seems like his reaction might be violent if you did this. Yeah, that seems like a great way to get beaten up by a guy and his mom if you ask me. Yep, my old roommate posted that I was stealing money from her and not paying my bills. Everyone on the thread was calling me a piece of crap and everything. What she forgot to put in the post was that she was a raging alcoholic. She never had money for the bills because she'd spend it on booze. Everything was in my name because she still owed money on everything and they wouldn't turn things on in her name, even after she cleared her debt. She didn't talk about how she would be late for rent every month, but I was always on time. It got so bad that the landlord would call me to collect the rent. She is now in rehab and still trying to reconnect with me. I don't know if I can ever be her friend again after that. There's always more to the story, and I'm glad that I don't live with her anymore. When I was a freshman in university and Yik Yak was big. Classic. I had a knee brace on an injury that I wore every day. I'm also 5 foot tall and generally petite. Once I went to pick up a big package from the mail center and bring it back to my dorm. 1 block, so I knew I could do it and didn't ask for help. Someone wrote a yik-yak to the tiny girl with a knee brace and a giant box, "Hang in there." It kinda made my day. My mum even has a screenshot of it saved. I'm pretty sure about this. There was a story I read about a girl walking home late on a foggy night, seeing someone she thought was pretty odd walking towards her. As I remember, described angrily, and she explained debating crossing the street but continued forward. When they crossed paths, she said hello, and after a significant pause when they were already a few steps apart and she heard a faint little hey, which she also found odd. That guy was me. I was actually just very drunk, a little high and cold, walking briskly towards my house, which was a few miles away from the party I was at that evening. I remember seeing a silhouette of someone coming through the fog and getting a little scared myself, followed by relief that it was a woman, then instantly filled with the realization that my drunk butt is probably frightening the crap out of her, which led to panic to get the situation over with as quickly as possible. I even remember thinking at the time of responding to the story, but somehow the concept of, "Hey, I think I'm the guy that weirded you out. How neat is that?" didn't seem worth the neat to even weirder ratio. I've been in that situation so often. I'm a tall and wide-shouldered guy, and you can't see my baby face in the dark. Yes, someone posted one of my prom pictures pretending to be me. I saw it on the front page, as did my ex-boyfriend who featured in it, and was teed off that I'd posted it. To be fair, the pic is hilarious and totally front-page worthy. They must have been someone who he knew in real life because they linked to my ex's music site, mentioned what I'm doing now, detailed our relationship, among a few other things. They ended up deleting their account once it got big enough that people posted it on my Facebook wall and stuff. There can be only one. I was dating an alcoholic, and when he fell off the wagon, I spent a lot of time reading alcoholic subs to try and better understand how to help him. I found some posts he made talking about me and how to explain his disease to me, since I grew up with alcoholics and it deeply affected me. People kept telling him we wouldn't make it or that I must have really low self-esteem, but he said I was smart and cute and had a once-in-a-lifetime soul and wasn't the kind of person you gave up. I found it well after the fact, but my heart basically exploded. Felt like dressing up one day for school, red lipstick and all. I checked Yik Yak later, and someone had called out my exact outfit down to the shoes and said, "Why?" That's 2 posts about Yik Yak, and the narrator has no idea what the heck it is. Let me check Google real quick, and it's local Reddit? I thought the global reach for advice and commentary was kind of the point with Reddit. Feels like you'd be far more likely to get caught out on Yik Yak. I was judging for a writing competition and gave a poor score to one of the writers due to copious typos, grammar problems all over the place, and jarring narrative that seemed not to serve any purpose. She started stalking me and leaving nasty messages all over the forums, and then went over to Tumblr and here talking crap about how horrible I am. I basically blocked her and reported her behavior to the mods, but they didn't do much, so I just ignored her, and she eventually disappeared. A few months later, she left a comment on one of my stories telling me that she'd gone off her bipolar meds and apologized for her behavior. I didn't reply, but it looks like she's in a better place and getting help now. I think it's brave of her to apologize for that. It's not easy to revisit things you wish you hadn't done if you don't have to. Good on her for recognizing her situation and apologizing. And good on you for keeping your distance and wishing her well. A few years ago, before I met my wife, I answered a Craigslist ad from someone who needed a friend. I'm being very vague on purpose because I know she's online a lot. The day we met, I knew I wanted to date her. We spent a lot of time together for a few weeks, and then she was suddenly busy most of the time. A few days later, she called me to apologize, saying she kinda freaked out because I was getting too close and she wasn't ready for a relationship right now. I was devastated but backed away to respect her request. A few months go by and I met my wife. Fast forward 2 years and my very pregnant wife and I are shopping and we see the girl. She's very uncomfortable seeing us and my wife gave her a big hug, saying that I've only said the best things about her. My wife was actually a little jealous of the one that got away, but I'm proud that she was so gracious about it. We only spent a few minutes chatting, then she said she had to go, and that was the last time I ever saw her. But a few weeks after that, I saw a Reddit post from a woman who claimed to have learned too late that she was in love. She mentioned a few specific things that made it super obvious it was her, and that it was about me. That day was really rough, and I was super teed off at her for a long time. I felt like she was acting out an Adele song by posting such specific information online, hoping I'd see it and go back to her, despite being married and about to have a child. Not totally rational, I know, but it was just frustrating to me. The silver lining is that I have a son I would never trade anything for and a wife that loves me most of the time, which is normal, I think. Today, I hope she's happy, but I would never go back to her and I have zero regrets. You can submit your own stories to be featured here on the channel. The story submission link is in the description below. And if you want to listen to some vibey music in the background, check out easymode, also linked below, and subscribe. An unknown poster posted a picture of me from a concert tailgate. Apparently, I have the highest belly button ever. It was posited that I was raised by bats. I thought the whole thread was hilarious but never figured out who posted the picture. It was grabbed from a buddy's Facebook. A couple of months ago, I got a screenshot from a friend saying someone was posting awful things about me on their blog. I was never mentioned by name, but it referenced a lot of identifiers that made it plain to see it was me. Went to the blog and there were several entries that were just about why and how much she hates me, can't figure out why anyone would want to be around me, and a recurring theme that I'm copying her. What makes it a bit weird is that we've only met her once at a party, but there was such vitriol in the posts. I have to admit it does bug me. I'd love to say it rolls off my back, but the part of me that struggled in making friends and trusting people just feels so insecure when I'm reminded of it like that. I ran across an ex posting about how we met, and when someone commented, "You should marry him," she responded, "I plan to." It sent my heart exploding to think someone could even jokingly say something like that about me. Well, it was a joke because she dumped me for her ex a week later. I made it to the cringeworthy Reddit once. It was a picture of me being stupid in a mall for the sake of a joke that was posted on social media and eventually found its way to Reddit. Me and my friends had a good laugh many years later when we found out. Back when Yik Yak was popular and I was in college, there was a post stating, 123 Fake Street, apartment 23, needs to take care of their dog. I hear it crying every night. We had no dog, never quite figured that one out. I always thought it was my roommate who made weird noises while playing video games. My freshman year of college, I saw a yak that was like, "The girl in philosophy class wearing the specific article of clothing is gorgeous," or something like that, clearly talking about me. I didn't tell anyone because I'm pretty average looking, and I didn't know if people would believe me, but it made my entire week. Not on Reddit, but I matched with a girl on Bumble and I was in the background of her first picture. I was wearing a Gary Payton jersey and still had a man bun. Rest in peace to the hair. Aha! So you were able to whimsically say that you had already had a long and storied history together on your first date. Magnificent. I found myself in a picture once. I came across a post that showed a bunch of people on a plane returned from Afghanistan, and he was giving the finger or something and sent it to his mum. His mum replied with her doing the same thing with a bunch of co-workers. I was in the first picture. It was kind of crazy seeing myself on the front page and was fun guessing who posted the picture. It wasn't the actual person who sent it to his mum, but a different co-worker. An ex of mine has made a Reddit account for the sole purpose of crapping on me and my posts on Reddit. Honestly, I'm just flabbergasted a person I loved, was intimate with, and dated on and off for almost 7 years is nothing more than a Reddit troll now. It would be really funny if it weren't so sad. It was a photograph on Icon Has Cheeseburger of a cat next to a piece of string in the shape of a heart with the caption, "Now will you feed me?" Not only was it quite certainly my parents' very distinctive cat, it was the flooring and the skirting board of my parents' living room. Quite frankly, it creeped the F out of all of us as we hadn't taken the photo, none of our friends had taken the photo, and we owned no pink string. We ended up deciding for our peace of mind that the painters who did my parents' house last year must have taken it and posted it on the internet. After my loser ex and I broke up, I saw him post to Reddit saying that their roommate had moved out and changed the Netflix password on them, asking for advice on getting it back. It was my Netflix account, paid for exclusively by me, and I cancelled it within 20 minutes after leaving because they couldn't be bothered to tear their eyes from the TV as I packed up my things in tears. I was in the very worst days of my anorexia and depression and had dropped below 75 pounds. I'm a 5'8" male, by the way, and was going to the gym to ride on a stationary bicycle every day for about 40 miles. I was often either very high or on several 5-hour energy shots every morning I was there. I came across a post on this sub from someone who worked at the gym asking for advice about whether she should do something about the skeletal guy that comes in every day because he looks like he's dying. Some comments were really quite disgusting. People saying that I was probably just image-obsessed and insisting that anorexics are narcissistic and vain. Truth be told, I was just kind of waiting to pass away at that point and completely checked out of life, living on 100 to 500 calories a day. And when I found the post, I got in the car and impulsively drove down I-5 on a full tank of gas with no destination, just bawling. Then ran out of gas and slept in my car at a truck stop. Alright, I'm going to keep it vague, but I found a post on Reddit relationships by my ex when we were dating. I found the post about 4 months after he wrote it, and I was moving away at the time of the post, and we did eventually end up breaking it off. And the post was basically him saying he didn't want to lose me, but he felt like it was happening. Felt pretty crappy after finding it, lots of regret. Do people even talk to each other anymore? Half this post is people telling internet strangers things they'd be far better off saying to the other person. I was once alerted by a friend that a picture of me was posted on the old facial book rather than Reddit. It was on some lame page of D-bag gearheads and a picture of me filling my tires up at a gas station immediately after I picked my car up from a body shop unrepaired after a recent accident. Random guy who snapped the pic was making fun of me for totaling my car, when in all reality I avoided what could have been a far worse situation as an SUV T-boned my Miata. Luckily, I swerved in time to avoid a direct hit to my door with the SUV hitting my tire instead. Overall, I called the D-bag out on his ignorance and told him to stop creeping on chicks at gas stations and stick to tickling his pickle to cars instead. Overall, I felt weird as crap and creeped out that some guy was taking pictures of me unknowingly at a gas station, then posting them to the interwebs. Can't imagine the lives of celebrities stalked by paparazzi. Gross. A co-worker of mine must have forgotten that I was on her Facebook and went on a rant about me. We were goofing off at work and I made a comment that if I moved away and somehow ended up at that job again, that something had gone terribly wrong in my life. Little did I know that that's pretty much what happened to her. I was incredibly embarrassed and apologized profusely, but that still didn't stop her from slamming me on Facebook while all of her friends joined in. At least I got to defend myself. This was also the same person that dragged me for being unable to breastfeed my kids. If you really loved them, you'd blah blah blah. What a C-word. Sort of. I saw a post asking for ideas on a fairly narrow research paper assignment, because she needed to turn her term paper topic to her professor the next day. My husband was teaching a class on that exact topic, with that assignment due the next day, so I suggested something I knew he'd be really interested in. He came home the next day all excited that one of his students had picked that topic. Holy crap, you are the patron saint of undergrads. I need to start contacting my professors' wives. Let it be known that people should not start contacting their educators' families at home, just in case anyone was already searching the web for their details. A few years ago, I was browsing Reddit Forever Alone, and there was a post that said something like, "I have a date on Monday, so I guess I'll be seeing you guys on Tuesday," along with a bunch of crass jokes about his date and how he was planning on knocking her up. Didn't take me long to realize that this was the same guy I had a date with on Monday, so I commented about how I'd see him in a few days, at which point he texted my number to verify it was actually me. We laughed it off and I still went on a date with him. He was pretty fun and it went fairly well, other than his constant awkward jokes about how I was so perfect for him and how badly he wanted to get me pregnant. We hadn't even kissed and I was maybe 18 and he was in his mid to late 20s, so it was extra uncomfortable and I didn't know how to respond. We talked a little a while after and never actually ended up making plans for another date, partially because logistics and partially because his endless comments about impregnating me were really starting to weird me out. A few months later, I ran into him commenting about our date and how it didn't go anywhere, but I was too young and immature for him anyways. I had this terrible roommate. He made me so uncomfortable that I mostly hid in my room. He crossed my boundaries, invaded my privacy, and was passive-aggressive. I finally gave my notice and started packing. He posted a cheesy questionnaire on Facebook, and one of the questions was, "What are you most looking forward to?" He put, "My horrible roommate moving out." A bunch of people I don't know, who must have assumed his roommate couldn't see, started offering vague supportive comments like, "Oh yeah, bad roommates are the worst," or "Hope they leave soon." It bothered me most because first of all, the only thing I ever did to him was not want to date him and put in my notice, but also the fact that our mutual friends could see it and so could I, which is just rude. I decided to comment and said, "I'm sure your supportive friends who don't know the situation at all are unaware that you're being this rude where I and our mutual friends can see it. You aren't a perfect roommate either, but at least I treat you with enough respect to not badmouth you so openly. If you're going to be purposefully cruel and try to humiliate me, I'll have to unfriend you so I don't have to see it." Shortly after posting, he deleted the whole thread. I used to be really active in the Reddit for indie makeup and more, and there were brand owners and some rabid fans there. Makeup reviews end up getting taken very personally. I get so many people trying to spread crazy rumors about me, or maybe it was just the same crazy brand owner with 20 alts. People were saying I gave negative reviews for attention and would message new members negative reviews unsolicited just to destroy businesses. Who the heck has time for that? Your handmade lipstick grew mold. There's no grand conspiracy behind why your sales are failing. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories, or if you want some vibey music to put on in the background, check out easymode. If you like Am I the Genius, give Am I the Jerk a shot. Everything linked in the description.